Now, give me 100 chips.
Certainly, sir. Your money, please?
My money?
If you want to play roulette, you have to bet with real money.
You really are crazy, aren't you?
The people who walk through that door are prepared to risk something precious to them. Their next rent payment, the future of their business, their lover's esteem. It just looks like money when they lay it on the table. What they risk tells them something about who they are, whether they are truly brave or just pretending to be brave.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Movie Oblivion, the podcast about feature films based on comic books and comic strips that people have stopped talking about. We are your hosts, Jordan and Kumar, that's me.
And me.
And this week we are talking about My Name Is Modesty, if that's actually the title.
It is.
From 2004 or maybe 2003 or 2002, depending on who you ask.
Well, that's a whole question. I saw as early. The credits say copyright 2002.
That's right. Yeah. But maybe it didn't come
Shocking information relevant to this discussion that will come into play later.
Yeah. Let's pause the podcast on this one. Well, I would say you don't have to pause it.
No, because we spoiled this film last week when we discussed Modesty Blaise's backstory.
Yes. And it's actually treated as kind of a surprise, here. But we'll talk about all that. Also, I do want to say that this week I came in with no formed opinion. Whatever you vote at the end, I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna vote exactly the way you do, because I could not decide about this quote unquote movie, which we'll talk about a bit, and also why I couldn't decide about it when we.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that. Yep.
So I only read one more story this week, which was Mr. Sun, which was the first story in volume 2. Did you do any more reading?
I read everything. I read all I could get. I just really like these comics.
Yeah. I will say the pattern that I've started noticing, and actually you probably mentioned it last week, is that usually the adventure involves somebody that Modesty knows. In this case, 2 people.
Yeah.
Because she's got there's this young man. He's 18 years old. He's in university in Hong Kong. His name is Wang, and he kind of goes missing. Well, we know that he's gone to this criminal kingpin to borrow money, and then suddenly he's gone missing after that. But she knows him because she had rescued him as an orphan, and she also knows the bad guy, Mr. Sun.
Yeah.
This criminal mastermind in Hong Kong. And he's actually sent Wang to Saigon with a package of heroin. And he's been abducted by Sun's men on that side in order to lure Modesty to rescue him, because Sun wants her to carry 8 kilos of heroin to Saigon, because she had previously defeated him in some sort of. We don't have the backstory of how she shamed him.
It probably has to do with the fact that he's a drug peddler.
Right.
Modesty hates.
We learned that in this story, especially, how much she hates drugs.
You won't have any drugs or human trafficking or kind of vice crimes in general.
In this one, she goes crazy, hates drugs. There's a lot of anti-drug message kind of strips in here, but particularly he wants her to deliver these drugs to really rub it in, to really shame her the way he was shamed.
It's a subtle Asiatic style of vengeance. He doesn't want to kill her. Yeah, he wants to make her do the thing. First of all, he's horrified her by having her protege deliver heroin.
Yeah,
that's done. So that's already a blow. Now he's going to really rub it in, as he said, by making her rescue him by delivering narcotics, which she hates above all else.
Yes. And when she finally catches up with Wang, she pummels him, she beats him up for peddling drugs. And she's so furious with this guy, and you think they're going to be reunited, she's going to be forgiving, but she actually... It's a slow process for her to forgive him because she hates drugs so much, and she's like, you're ruining all those lives of all those people.
Yeah.
But of course they turn the tables on him by he's given them this booby-trapped suitcase.
Yeah. With the heroin in it, but
and she manages to get the experts, and she disguises herself as a Chinese lady, very much like You Only Live Twice, but works in a comic book, doesn't work so much on screen with Sean Connery.
Modesty herself has some an Asian heritage. It's implied.
That's right. Yeah.
But she uses makeup to make herself look kind of like a floozy.
What do they call them? Yum Yum girls?
I've never heard that before.
That's the term they use twice in this comic. Yum Yum
That was
girls.
really weird.
Yeah.
She just puts on kind of trashy makeup and a cheongsam, and then she goes out and pretends to be kind of like a woman of the night.
Yeah.
She deliberately gets herself arrested
Yes.
so she can avoid the tail that Mr. Sun has on
It's a
her.
great scheme.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a typical Modesty Blaise kind of scheme. It's really cool because, of course, she knows the police commissioner because she knows everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody from her life of crime. She gets herself arrested, and then she causes like such a ruckus that the police commissioner himself has to come in and see her. And then she reveals that she's Modesty. And she says, "I'm going to deliver you the biggest heroin trafficker in Hong Kong because I've got 8 kilos of heroin
Yeah.
that I'm delivering on his behalf." And
Yeah.
so she turns the tables on him. The cops show up, but he escapes to Vietnam. Modesty follows him to Vietnam. There's this whole thing. The Vietnam War is occurring concurrently with these events. So they join like an all-female commando team.
Yes, because Wang wanted the money to go find his sister, who he's found out is alive based on a photo of this all-female commando team.
Yeah.
It's like my sister's alive, so he's responsible for her because he's like head of the family, essentially.
Yeah.
And then he goes there, and there's this big twist that she's actually a spy for the Viet Cong. She doesn't want to. She thinks he's been brainwashed by capitalist pigs.
Yeah. She was well, she vanished on patrol, and they assumed she'd been captured by the communists. And then it becomes imperative that they rescue her because the communists are pure evil, and everyone knows what they're going to do to a woman that they capture. But then when, as you said, when they eventually rescue her, it turns out that she's a mole for the communists in the all-female commando team and had been reporting on their whereabouts.
Yeah.
And it's played very much, very shocking that she was a bad guy all along. But of course, from our 21st century perspective, arguably she's a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he ends up having like killing her.
Oh, he has to kill her.
defend
He has to
Modesty.
kill his own sister. Because
Yeah.
he'd rather kill his own sister than let her kill Modesty.
Yeah.
So much for being head of the family.
Yeah.
So much for the inscrutable honor of the Asiatics, Kumar.
Yeah. And it seemed like Sun was going to escape, but actually Modesty got him too. She put him in one of those thigh locks and flipped him over a railing to his death.
awesome.
It was great. It was really great.
He turned out to be a master martial artist despite being a big fat dude.
Yes.
That was a little bit, yes.
Like the Kingpin, I guess.
Sure. Like the Kingpin.
Yeah. So there's one other tiny thing I wanted to mention about this strip, which I thought was pretty great, as usual. There's the head of like U.S. narcotics is in Saigon, and his name is Tex Naylor.
Yeah, because he's from Texas.
Yes. There's an amazing strip where this is on page 30 of the Titan edition. At the very top, Modesty and Willie are having breakfast, and they're trying to find out where Wang's sister is. And Tex shows up where they're sitting at the table having breakfast. Modesty says, "Hello, Tex, pull up a chair. Did you get anything on the girl?" And he says, "Honey, I'm a mine of information. Just jump in and dig around." And he comes to the table, and it seems like he puts his hat on Willie's head.
Oh.
While Willie is eating his breakfast. And Willie's not paying attention to this hat. And she says, "Okay, have you located Wang's sister? Can we get her back here to Saigon? If not, can I take Wang north to wherever she is?" And then Tex's answer is, "Yep, nope, and yep, in that order. I bribed the Major General for the last yep." And then Willie says, "Dig in, Tex, mate. I bet you've only had a steak sandwich, a 12-inch steak since you got up." I loved this 3-panel sequence. It is amazing to me because it tells you this is a new character, right? We've never met this character Tex before, but you immediately get the nature of their friendship in the way he's joking around, the way he puts his hat onto Willie's head, just like comes in and drops his hat on this other guy's head. And Willie just leaves it there. And then I just love how snappy the dialogue is. And then I love the way Willie responds with, "I bet you've only had a 12-inch steak since you got up." It's just really, their entire relationship is right there in 3 panels.
I actually, I'm pleased you mentioned that because it's one of the things I love about these comics. O'Donnell is just the master of this brevity is the soul of wit kind of facet of this style of storytelling. I having read the Modesty Blaise novel that he published, I must say that I didn't like that half as much as I enjoy the comics. And I think it's because the medium forces O'Donnell to make the most out of the limited space that he has on a week by week basis. And it's fabulous. fabulous. I just love these comics. Like I said, I read everything you sent me, all 3 volumes.
Yeah. Yeah.
In volume 2 that you sent me, there's a short story that rounds up the volume, the final story. And it's one it's much shorter than the typical Modesty Blaise story because it was published to fill in, I think, for a strike.
Right.
So there was a strike in England, but the strip was being published in other places, specifically Scotland. And they wanted to keep running the strip while this strike was occurring in England. So O'Donnell penned a really short story to kind of fill in the 6-week period when it wasn't being published in the UK, so that this paper in Scotland could keep running it. And anyway, it's a great story. It's an adaptation essentially, or a rip-off of The Most Dangerous Game.
Okay.
Modesty and Willie are both kidnapped.
Okay.
And they wake up sort of on a boat, and there are these 3 colorful characters. One's sort of like a Choctaw Indian tracker. Another one's a notorious mercenary, and the third is a big game hunter from Africa. And then this withered old man announces that, and of course this is someone Modesty knows, as it always is.
Yes.
And he's been thwarted by Modesty in the past, and now he's dying, and he wants Willie and Modesty to get their comeuppance. So he's hired these 3 most dangerous kind of hunters in the world to track them down on this island. So he marines them on an island. He gives them water, a knife, a gun, except they're all booby-trapped. The water's salt water. The gun only fires blanks, and the knife has a tracking device in it. Anyway, long story short, they outfox the hunters. And take care of them one by one and arrive back on the ship. And the old man has died in the meantime, believing that he'd finally got one over Modesty Blaise. It's just a great little story.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any other stories you want to talk about before we move into this movie?
No, we can talk about... I've got a little bit of trivia about the comic.
Okay.
O'Donnell based the character of Modesty Blaise. This might be, apocryphal, something he came up with later in life, but he did serve in the army during the Second World War, and he served in northern Iraq. And he claims that there was a scene very much like the one which appeared in the film that we're going to discuss, where he was with his unit, they were breaking for a meal, and he noticed they were being watched by a young girl in rags.
Okay.
Who just coolly, not furtive, not ashamed, just watching them coolly. They ended up sharing their food with her, gave her as much as she could carry, and she just strode off, as O'Donnell said, like a princess. He claims to have based the character of Modesty Blaise on her. I know this because I read about it in a obituary that was published on a blog post by a blogger of Tamil comics. Apparently, Modesty Blaise is massive in India.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Especially in Tamil language comics.
Right. I did see that one of the magazines it was serialized in, it was one of the ones my mom used to read, and I forgot to ask her if she actually knew who she was or not. She probably wouldn't remember, but...
I can pop this blog post on the Facebook page so that you can have a look at it. But yeah, there's a lot of Tamil language Modesty Blaise comics in more than one kind of comic book.
Right.
Various comic anthologies published in Tamil have Modesty Blaise stories in it. The author of this blog post said that she was the greatest Tamil language comic book heroine.
Interesting.
Also, somewhat like Bringing Up Father, very popular in Scandinavia, specifically Sweden. Yeah, very kind of like a big deal in Sweden, still being published up till this day.
Right.
People are still buying, they're still printing anthology comics of Modesty Blaise every year.
Yeah.
Sweden, it's a big deal apparently. And of course the comic is still running in newspapers around the world.
Yes, but in reprints.
Repeats, of course. Yeah. O'Donnell passed away in 2010, I believe.
Yes.
Writing them, I think, about 8 years before that.
Okay. So this movie came out in 2004, I think.
Direct to DVD.
Direct to DVD. So it's a bit of a cheat. Now, the title cards come up. And
these title cards, I love this. Yep.
They say Peter O'Donnell's Modesty Blaise. You think that's the name of the movie? No. Then it says My Name Is Modesty. You think that's the name of the movie? No. Next title card comes up, A Modesty Blaise Adventure. So as far as I can tell, this movie is called Peter O'Donnell's Modesty Blaise, My Name Is Modesty, A Modesty Blaise Adventure.
Yeah. It's never a good sign when you have multi-layered titles like that. Also, There's also, before that, there's Quentin Tarantino and Miramax Films presents
Yeah.
Peter O'Donnell's Modesty Blaise. My Name is Modesty, a Modesty Blaise adventure.
Yeah. Written by Lee and Janet Batchelor, who wrote Batman Forever.
Yes, they did.
And not a lot of other credits that I could see, but they might be script doctors, who knows, or whatever. Yeah. And directed, as we mentioned last week, by Scott Spiegel, who is wrote Evil Dead and was a cohort of Sam Raimi.
Yes. So his main claim to fame seems to be guy that knows Sam Raimi. And worked on Evil Dead. His main directing credit is From Dusk Till Dawn 2.
Right. Okay.
Which apparently, allegedly, quite a decent direct-to-video sequel to From Dusk Till
I
Dawn.
think Bruce Campbell is in one of those.
I wouldn't. Well, he must be in this one because he must be in this one because he knows.
Yeah.
Scott Spiegel.
Yeah.
Although after that kind of scathing introduction, Scott Spiegel apparently quite well-regarded bloke.
Right.
One of those guys who knows people.
Okay.
If you know Scott Spiegel, he can help you kind of, despite his limited kind of credits as a director or writer or the actor, he's sort of has an outsized influence in cinema because of his reputation as a networker.
So the credit here is Modesty Blaise, created by Peter O'Donnell. There's no mention of a comic strip or anything like that this time, which we did have last week. It was very specific about that. If this had come out after 2008, after Iron Man, definitely would have said based on a comic strip, I can almost guarantee.
Yeah, right. This is back when you mentioned that, and it's not going to do your movie any favors.
Yeah. So it starts out with a opening, these soldiers, as you mentioned, and a caption which says "somewhere in the Balkans."
Yep. Iraq, but yeah.
Yeah.
These guys are definitely wearing sort of World War II era army uniforms.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to be set in modern times, and this would have been like the Bosnian War.
It is supposed to be set in modern times. You're right. But I either they're deliberately going for a kind of ambiguity, because the film does at times hint that Modesty is less than honest about her past.
Right.
Or they just had some World War II army uniforms.
Right.
Lying around in costuming. The last
right. Well, that's what this movie, quote unquote movie, feels like a lot of the time.
Absolute shoestring budget.
Yes, very much so. So soldiers come across this old white, this big structure. It might have been an old government building or something that's now rubble mostly. And there's this feral child watching them, this girl, and one of the soldiers offers her a can of food. She doesn't even know how to open it. He gives her a can opener. She's kind of suspicious around him, but then she takes the food. And so then it cuts to 11 years later, and she's a card dealer, or she works in this casino in Tangier. Now, first thing is, so it's 11 years later, so if it's 2004, that means this war is taking place around 92, 93.
Yeah, so that's a good fit for kind of like the Bosnian.
Yeah.
But no, they wouldn't have been wearing uniforms like that in the Bosnian War.
Right. They're specifically, I guess, vague or don't have the money for proper uniform, all that kind of stuff.
I would say that costuming it was filmed in like Bucharest. I would say that costuming had just a lot of World War II era uniforms lying around from various films dramatizing the Second World War.
Right.
And they used those.
So Modesty is played by this actress named Alexandra Staden. She's a British actress, but she's putting on a kind of a mixed up accent like Christopher Lambert had in Highlander. Yep. You can't quite tell where she's from. I think it's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it works.
And she is supposed to be a young Modesty. This is like origin era or prequel Modesty, right?
Yes.
This actress at the time is actually 25, and I think Modesty is supposed to be 26. Now, in the strips, but I mean...
No, Modesty's 26 when she retires from the network. When she's working at that place in town,
I see.
She's 19 years old or so.
Right, okay. Well, also, I mean, it's not really...
She doesn't know how old she is, yeah.
That's true, too. But I was going to say it's not really fair for me to judge her age in the strip because she's kind of a superhuman figure. She's a comic strip character. Like, she seems a lot older than 26 in the strip. But anyway, she doesn't seem like she'd be able to be capable of all that at 26.
No, but I mean, she's an exceptional individual.
Exactly. She's almost superhuman.
Yes.
So this actress is actually 25 years old. So she's like the age that Modesty is supposed to be in the strip, but she's supposed to be younger than Modesty.
She could be
Anyway, none of that really matters.
She looks quite, I mean, because she's quite beautiful,
Mm.
youthful. She could be any age from, 19 to
Yes.
20.
I think she's supposed to be playing like 19 or something.
But she
yeah,
has-
because they say it's 11 years later, and she was like, how old when she
she's
was that fair
quite
little girl?
10 years old or something like that, or 9, 10.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so she's working in Tangier. That detail is right out of the comic. Her boss is Henry Luce. Luce was the name of her boss at the casino in the comics. So this is all, they've read the comic this time.
Yes.
Unlike last week.
Yeah.
So we get a little bit of background about the boss. He's teaching her about how to deal and how to fleece the customers that come into the casino, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah. They're not, yes. They're not allowed to win too much.
Yes, exactly.
It's never really implied that she's cheating or that it's a trick, because it's roulette they're playing. It's more like she just sort of uses mind tricks to get the guy to bid more and afford until he's kind of cleaned himself out.
Yeah. And he's also into some shady deals. At least drugs, maybe later we learn arms as well. And he's going to a drug deal tonight. And he has a second in command whose name is Rafael Garcia, played by Raymond Cruz, who was Tuco on Breaking Bad for a few episodes, if you remember him.
He also appears in Better Call Saul.
Right. So the boss, Luce, goes to this deal, but then he's ambushed in his car. And these guys jump out, and Nikolaj Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones,
Jaime Lannister himself kills the guy.
jumps out, and Luce is like, I'll pay you. Who's hired you? I'll pay you 2 times, 3 times. He says, you think I care about money? Jaime says that, and then he shoots him.
Bam. We are exclusively going to refer to Nikolaj Coster-Waldau as Jaime from now on.
Yes.
Because I don't
By
even
the way,
remember the name of his character in the film.
Yeah, he is also in the Flash movie from last year in
Was
some
he?
sort of cameo. And he's also in Oblivion, which is the fake comic book movie, which we might talk about on a cheat
I very
episode.
much like to cover Oblivion at one stage. So there's a potential Jaime Lannister will be popping up again.
Yeah. So while that's happening, back at casino, we learn that Modesty is very respected by her coworkers.
Yep.
Including those who are like at a lower level than her. They come to her for advice.
Yep.
Or even those higher up. Raphael really respects her opinion and talks for.
Yeah, it's unclear what exactly her status is. She's probably not second in command, because
definitely not. That's Raphael.
That's Raphael. And yet he takes orders from her.
I think he respects her advice.
He respects her enough to listen to her when she suggests a course of action at this early stage of the film. And as you say, other figures, like waitresses and that, come to Modesty. So even though Modesty we know that she's young because it's been 11 years since she was a child, she's sufficiently cool, calm, and collected to be able to take charge of a situation.
Yeah. So the guys that had attacked Luce in the street show up at the casino in the movie's funniest scene, where they barge in and just start shooting their machine guns. One guy after that comes in and then fires off like 100 rounds. Then the next one comes in and fires off 100 rounds all over. They're shooting glasses and stuff.
Hilarious. These guys must be the least professional henchmen.
Yeah. Why they don't need 20 guys to come in, all of them to just empty their magazines at the bottles that are behind the bar. It's so funny and weird.
So over the top. And it's established later that they need the people in the casino alive in order to open a vault to get the money. And yet they're firing off their guns willy-nilly in this scene.
Yeah.
You could just have killed everybody.
Yes.
Guns are dangerous.
Yeah.
And these guys are hopeless. They just stand around and glower, and then later on they all play cards and don't pay attention to anything that's going on.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, they're trying to get into this vault, but they kill a guy as like a show of force.
Well,
and
James kills him,
And Modesty says, hey, he was the guy that knew the code to the vault.
Oops.
And Jaime insists, hey, somebody else must know the code. And she says, well, it changes every night, but it's on the computer, the boss's computer. They go up to the boss's computer. They're like, well, the only one who knows how to get in there is Rafael Garcia. and he's gone out. He's gone off with some. He's got a date tonight or something.
Yeah.
So she calls him and says, "You have to come in." She makes it sound like he forces, Jamie forces her to call, and I think his name is actually Miklos in this movie, by the way.
It is Miklos.
So.
But it's much more
Miklos, Jamie forces her to phone Garcia to bring him in. So she kind of makes it sound like there's nothing wrong, but you're needed back at the office for whatever.
He comes out with all these lines. He says, I'm 12 miles from nowhere. We have our investors from Stockholm coming in the morning.
Yeah.
In 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's all this gibberish? Well, it's plot relevant gibberish, it turns out.
Yes. So once she hangs up the phone with him, they have to wait for him. He's not going to appear until 6 o'clock. So now I've got a timer on this thing. He's going to arrive at 6 o'clock and get into the computer for them or whatever. Now Jamie starts coming on to Modesty.
Yeah, he's interested in Modesty.
He's become interested. Yes. He's become bewitched by her, let's say.
She's very beautiful. She has kind of like very striking blue eyes.
Yes.
And also, she's just so collected.
Yes.
Like he notices that she's not frightened.
Yeah.
Well,
but I did love it when she says, "Stop wasting my time," when he tries to kiss her, and she just like shoves him away and gets out of there. It reminded me of those first couple of strips.
Yeah. Modesty is always in charge in any given situation.
So now they're waiting. They've got all night to wait, and she convinces him he wants to play roulette.
First, he decides he's going to, first of all, he says, well, let's play a game. Let's play roulette.
Yeah.
And
she's like, okay, if I win a certain number of games in a row, you have to release these hostages. If he wins, she has to tell him about herself.
It feels quite organic. This I don't mind. I think this part was kind of fairly well written. Because she's such a girl boss.
Yeah.
Like, well, put up your money. He's like, what do you mean put up my money? I've got you at gunpoint.
I actually think this whole thing is well written, actually.
Yeah. And he's like, what do you mean put up my money? I have you at gunpoint. Everyone in this casino is at gunpoint. I just want to play. Just give me some chips. And he goes, no, if you want to play, we're going to play properly. You need to put up your money. So he puts up his money. And he says, what do I stand to win? And she's like, well, I'll just pay you whatever you win. He's like, well, that's no good. I own everything in this casino, so what are you going to give me? She has nothing to say. And then he says, well, if I win, you have to tell me something about your past.
Right.
Because he's fascinated by her. He wants to know about it.
Right.
And she says, that's fine, but then you have to put up something of equal worth. So if I win, you have to let one of the hostages go.
Right, right. So I'm not sure how many, this movie is, quote unquote movie, is like an hour and 20 minutes long.
A bit less.
Hour 15.
I think it's closer to an hour 15, yeah.
And this scene occurs maybe the 20-minute point, and this kind of establishes the format of the rest of the movie, which is them playing roulette with flashbacks to her youth.
Yes.
Right? So that's basically what we're going to settle in for as of this scene. Meanwhile, some of the staff are arguing, like the staff that are held hostage, they're kind of arguing about, should we try to make an escape or not? And one girl's like, no, we shouldn't. The other's like, I'm going to get away from here. That kind of happens in between. It's, intricate.
But it's way down the list of priorities. Call it a B plot. Very little screen time is devoted to this. Most all screen time is devoted to the sort of cat and mouse game between Jaime Lannister and Modesty Blaise, and B, the flashbacks to Modesty's life in the Balkans.
Yeah.
In refugee camps, etc., etc. We get hardly any time spent on any other characters.
Yeah.
So Jaime has sort of stacked the deck. I think every game he wins, he gets a secret, but Modesty has to win 2 games in a row in order to free a hostage. So there are only about 3 hostages.
Yeah.
And very few of them are being free.
And one of them has been shot in the leg, so he needs to get to a hospital. That's another part of this.
So Modesty, we sort of get her backstory.
Right. And it comes pretty much from in the beginning, that Modesty Blaise story, which is only 12 strips long. She was in a refugee camp. She doesn't know her name, her parents, her actual age, which initially Jamie's shocked. Like, he's not shocked. He's incredulous that she doesn't know how old she is or anything like that. But she reveals
things like that.
Yeah, she was in a refugee camp. There was an old man that was being robbed. Some kids were trying to rob his bag, and then she attacked the kids and beat them up. This is all done in this kind of like slow motion-y kind of stuff, because they can't train this kid to fight in the one day they were shooting this, I'm guessing.
No, this was an 18-day shoot.
Oh yeah, it shows. This kid, yeah. So they just kind of slow motion this stuff to make it look like this intense fight
They
happening
add
where she's
they
beating
add
off all these
effects. So
robbers.
they add these really silly sound effects too.
Yeah.
A lot of whooshes and
Yeah.
thuds.
Yeah. Yep. They escape. So this old man and Modesty, who has no name at this stage, escape from the camp. She gets her name the same way as in the comic. Pretty much, she takes off her top, and he's like, "You have no modesty," and he jokingly names her Modesty.
Yeah.
And the difference here, though, is that the professor knows martial arts. This old man, so it's a bit like Splinter and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where this super old rat is like just copying the moves that he saw and now is able to do martial arts. So this is how she learns martial arts.
It's a bit silly, but we need her to know martial arts for the fight scenes.
It is, but up to this point, this actress is very skinny. I mean, her arms are on display for the whole movie, and I was like, okay, this version of Modesty isn't going to do martial arts because there's no way we can convincingly make this actress look like she's a martial artist.
She's about 100 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah. So I was a bit surprised by this training sequence, not only because the old man was the one teaching her, but that we were having it at all. They were bothering to put this plot in here, but it's in there.
Because we have a fight scene later. That's why.
Yes. Professor Lob, his name is, he gets killed in fighting, which doesn't happen in the comic. In the comic, he just dies of old age as they're traveling across the desert, and she buries him. And it's quite touching in the comic, even though it's one panel. It's an amazing, Peter O'Donnell Holdaway single panel that is effective. I'm not sure about how I feel about him getting killed in fighting, but I guess they're keeping stuff exciting as much as they can.
They wanted to splice in some stock footage that they had of tank battles.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Die in a tank battle, even though they're not in a tank.
Yeah. So then a few years later, after he's passed away, she's in Tangier, I'm guessing, and she's pickpocketing people in the market, and Luce spots her doing it and stops her. And
he sees it.
Yeah.
And it offers her a job when he hears her impressive kind of
skill set, including knowing how to set a table, which I don't know where she picked that up while she was living in the desert with Professor Lob.
Lob just taught her everything. Lob's like a polymath. Maybe he used, sticks and different shaped sticks for the different cutlery.
You know what? That's actually feasible. That actually makes sense because they were at there for many, many years, and he taught her how to read.
It's like the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
When he's in prison for all those years, 20 years, and he lives next to a Lob-like character. He's cellmates with a Lob-like character who just teaches him everything, like high society, low society, and then he gets out and he just knows everything about everything, and he's able to take his revenge. It's something similar here, I think.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's actually feasible. So he hires her. Now, meanwhile, back in the present, one of the staff tries to run away. And Jamie's very outraged at this. I think they killed her after she escapes.
It's the slut. Yeah. They shoot her in the stomach.
Yeah.
It's the promiscuous one. So the promiscuous girl dies.
Right. Okay. Right. Oh yeah, she's like better at getting tips because she's flirty with the customers. Yeah,
she's got her tits.
It's told in dialogue. We don't get to see it, by the way. It's all done in dialogue. So
she's wearing a red dress, and she's very cute.
Yeah, Jamie is
by movie logic, she deserved to die.
Right. Right. So because of this, Jamie says he's going to kill everybody, but then Modesty reveals she actually knows the password because it was given to her in code by Garcia. She had spoken to him in code. Yep. That's what we learned in an earlier scene.
And being 12 miles from nowhere and everything was all about.
Yeah. So they go up there and they open the vault, but when they go in, it turns out there's actually a tunnel, which Luce had built, and Garcia comes storming in with some guys through the tunnel.
All right, okay. When you build your vault, should your vault have a hole in it?
No, shouldn't have a hole in it. Also, at this point, Garcia's 30 minutes late. Was he waiting in the tunnel for them to open the vault? Was that the plan?
I don't know. I was just too caught up with the idea of a vault with a...
Where's the other end of the vault? That's my other question. Where does it open out into?
Well, presumably just out onto the street where anyone can walk in.
Gee whiz. Okay, yeah.
What kind of vault? Why even build a vault? Just have a cupboard.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of a vault. A vault, by definition, has only one entrance.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So
something else we learned sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in answer to your earlier question, I suppose Raphael had sufficient faith in Modesty that she would get them in the vault at that point and he would shoot them, because otherwise it's a bit odd that he was there at right that instant.
Yeah.
I guess he was waiting for...
I think he was waiting there for half an hour for her to show up.
Yep. That's why he gave her the code. Yeah.
That
makes sense.
So earlier, during the roulette, we learned that Jaime's father had been killed. Tywin Lannister had been killed when he was sold some bad, like some faulty rifles by Lush, and now he wants revenge on Lush for, I guess, these rifles that backfired or just didn't fire at all when his dad was in a firefight.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to do something with the limited time and materials they have, I suppose, to make Jaime interesting as a foil to Modesty. So Modesty has no family. Jaime has family that died that he cares about. He wants revenge on Lush. Except he's already got revenge on Lush. He killed him in the street.
Yeah.
Now he wants to rob him, but he's already dead.
Yeah, but as you just said, they're trying to make a kind of emotional connection between Miklos and Modesty in this, by having this little detail in there. It's interesting because Modesty keeps denying that Lush would ever deal in guns.
Yeah.
Jaime's like, no, he did. And at the end, it's never refuted. Like, it seems to be that he did deal those guns. And she says at the end, when she takes over the business at the end of the movie, she's like, well, we're not ever going to do drugs anymore. We're not going to deal any more drugs. That business stops here.
Yeah, so Lush had sold Tywin Lannister faulty guns, and they'd failed at the kind of like an inopportune moment, and Jaime and all his henchmen got killed. Sorry, and Tywin and all his henchmen got killed, and then Jaime was left alone, a boy of 11, to kind of take over the family. And yeah, Modesty denies that Lush could have done such a thing. But we don't know. And
I think he did. I certainly think he did, because the movie never says he didn't. We never get any evidence that he didn't. And also, we do know that he was definitely dealing drugs, because she puts her foot down at the end and says no more drugs.
Well, I think that tonight's deal. So Jaime knew that there was a lot of cash in the vault.
Right.
Modesty tries to tell him that the cash is all in Switzerland. You know, we don't keep cash here in the casino. It's all in Switzerland. And he says, no, I know you need enough cash for the big deal tomorrow. We never hear much detail about the deal, but it seems to involve drugs.
Yeah.
And that's what Modesty explicitly rules out when she takes over. So Raphael just starts taking her orders because she's such a girl boss.
Yeah.
He just instantly twigs that he doesn't have what it takes. He's found his level.
Yeah.
And Modesty's going to be the new boss.
Yeah.
So
before this, we get a big... There's a big
film. She sort of says that she's not really comfortable with the kind of deals Lush is doing.
Right.
And Raphael says, well, you know, it's the Lush gang. When you've got the Blaise gang,
right,
you've got your own rules.
Right.
And by the end of the film, of course, it is the Blaise gang.
Yeah. So once Raphael storms the place or comes out of the vault, now we get a big fist fight. Now we get the martial arts fight. This fight is actually pretty good. I think they've shot it pretty well.
They're best. I mean, it has a lot of cuts because...
It does. I think she must have done some training, though. It's not completely faked like it was with the little kid. She does get shot in the leg at one point, which doesn't affect her performance at all. It's incidental, completely incidental.
So I was a bit checked out of this scene. I thought a lot of cuts, getting shot in the legs. Neither Jaime nor Modesty have any kinds of martial arts. The actors have any kind of martial arts training.
Yeah.
I think they did their best, I think, but
yes,
I don't think they had a lot of time for reshoots or multiple.
Everything about this movie is they did their best.
Yeah.
Everybody came to play, but they didn't have a lot to play with, I think. But she does flip him off the balcony a bit like Mr. Sun.
Yeah. You're right. Death. That's good. And he ends up with his neck being impaled on the roulette wheel, wouldn't?
Yes, symbolic. I guess.
And then we sort of get a speech about luck.
We've had a lot of speeches about luck. It opened with a speech about luck and
there's a bit of trying to layer some pseudo-philosophical kind of musings about what luck is.
Yes.
And it's all a bit vague and not really very...
It doesn't make sense. She says you're born with a certain amount of luck and you have to parcel it out. Like, how?
Tell me how luck works.
No. Yeah, exactly. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, so it's an hour and 50 minutes, which to me equals an hour and 30 minutes with commercials.
Yeah.
Because to me, this felt like a 1990s Canadian TV series pilot.
Absolutely.
This was not it did not It felt like La Femme Nikita, like the Nikita TV series, or 100 other Canadian science fiction shows from the 90s.
Yeah.
It has that kind of budget, the small sets. I'm not sure what, if anything, would have warranted the DVD. Well, if they didn't sell the pilot, they maybe released it on DVD, is my hunch. But it's a little bit like violent, maybe for TV, maybe not.
I think it is. Yeah. It feels a lot like a TV pilot because it kind of has a TV budget.
Yeah.
And it's shot on video, and especially the flashbacks feel very televisual.
Oh yeah, you can tell they're just like at a set next door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they just went out, let's drive out 10 kilometers to this site, this quarry where we can film this refugee camp scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They've done their best. I mean, like the kid Modesty's eye, like I mentioned Modesty's eye color. She has quite pale blue eyes that are very striking. The kid does not have the same eye color.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
Her eyes are really, I think her eyes are like dark brown. And I was just noticed that straight away. I was like, no, God.
This is, there's something going on here which we haven't really encountered, but you'd think we'd talk about it on the show a lot, given what this podcast is about, which is that in the comics, you have your quote unquote unlimited budget. There's a lot of globe-trotting in this strip. There's a lot of military hardware. There's all sorts of shootouts, all sorts of martial arts, costumes, mansions. They go to these huge mansions. There's like, weird devices sometimes, like that hypnosis room that we talked about. All this kind of stuff, Holdaway can draw it for the same price every week, if you know what I mean.
You're right.
And when you try to make a TV movie with a very limited budget, you're pulling out a lot of the stuff that makes the comic exciting and fun, is all the kind of scale of it, the scope.
You're right. Like you're constrained by, well, first of all, budget, as you say, and second of all, the limitations of the medium. The further back in time we go, the harder it is to do the kinds of effects that an artist can just do with a stroke of the pen. I suppose it's because we're mostly dealing with films that generally have the budget to play with.
So far, yeah. So far they've been, I don't think we had
one of the first times we've dealt with something where they clearly needed to spend less than $1 million.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Yeah.
Because they've just got one set for most of the film, the casino. Almost the whole film is in the casino.
Yeah.
The casino...
Yeah, that's right. Imagine if a Modesty Blaise strip was 30, 40 strips of just Modesty and some dude playing roulette.
Yeah, exactly. That's the opposite of Modesty Blaise. Modesty Blaise is about globe-trotting adventures.
Yeah.
In fact, like that's what a Modesty Blaise adventure is. This film is called A Modesty Blaise Adventure, but actually there's no adventure.
There's no adventuring. There's no adventuring happening in this at all. She stays in one place.
Verb. It's this a Modesty Blaise kind of like resident.
Anecdote.
Modesty Blaise in residence at a casino.
Yeah, I will say something else too. Like I did think this was well written for what it was, but if you don't have Willie and you don't have people that she already knows in it, like if that guy Miklos had shown up and she'd be like, oh, Miklos, or Miklos worked for some guy that she knew already, it would feel a bit more Modesty-like.
That's a good point.
But
and
missing those elements and missing Willie is kind of like we're missing some. Maybe Willie was going to be in episode 2.
That's a good point, and we should absolutely return to it when we discuss adaptation.
Yeah.
Right, you've done quite a bit of speculation. Would you like to hear some facts?
Yes, I'd love to hear the facts.
Well, I say facts. I did my best, but there's a lot of hearsay about this film.
Okay.
But the consensus that I found digging around is that, with all of this mystery, like why is it so cheap? Why is it a prequel? Why is it copyright 2002 but didn't come out until 2004? The answer seems to be that this was made so they could hang on to the license.
Oh, well, this is a Miramax strategy, and they did this with Hellraiser. Yeah. They put out a Hellraiser movie. One of them was like number 9 or 10, which absolutely looks like it looks like a porno. Looks like they shot it in a day, and they literally did shoot it in, I think, 2 days or something. And they would do that just to hold on to the rights because they're about to run out the next week or the next month.
That's right. So there's definitely some Miramax shenanigans going on behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
So much so that O'Donnell himself seems to have been disgusted the
Yeah.
film and the way that his character was treated by Miramax. So much so that, according to Neil Gaiman, and Neil Gaiman has a role in this that I'll get into, but Neil Gaiman tweeted in 2020 that O'Donnell was so disgusted with the Weinstein brothers' handling of Modesty Blaise that, quote, I believe he had a nobody can make a film of Modesty Blaise clause in his will.
Huh.
And actually, I
Wow.
had no trouble believing that because you remember the quote I read last
Yeah.
week where he said that the only way to be sure no one will fuck with your character is to never ever agree to have
Yeah.
all made of it. He must have been so jaded because there were
Yeah.
3 separate adaptations of Modesty Blaise, and by any account, he wasn't happy with any of them.
Huh.
I'm inclined to believe that that's not just hyperbole from Gaiman and that he probably said, my estate says no more movies of Modesty Blaise. All right. Okay. So I looked around. Now, this went direct to DVD, as we established. And when it was released on DVD, Quentin Tarantino's name splashed all over it.
Yeah.
That seems to have been how it got released. So it's shot in 2002 and shelved.
Okay.
Springtime for Hitler style.
Okay.
Because they've, satisfied their contractual obligations and they get to hang on to the
Right.
rights for a few more years. And it seems like somebody came up with the idea to release it a few years later because by convincing Tarantino to put his name on it, even though he had nothing to.
Yep. Yep.
The DVD allegedly has not allegedly, it's a fact. The DVD has, as a special feature, a 40-minute interview with Quentin Tarantino and Scott Spiegel,
Okay.
where they talk about the making of the film,
Okay.
interest in Modesty Blaise. Man, I would have loved to have watched that.
Okay.
And that seems to be the source for this
Okay.
kind of the notion that this was shot to hang onto the rights.
Okay.
I eventually found a slightly more detailed explanation on Neil Gaiman's website, neilgaiman.com, that doesn't offer sources, but does offer a much more detailed synopsis than any of the other versions I read on the internet.
Okay.
So according to this article on the website, which was not written by Gaiman, Miramax thought that Modesty could be their answer to James Bond.
Right.
Luc Besson was going to direct a Modesty Blaise film.
Huh.
Quentin Tarantino was going to write the Modesty Blaise film.
Okay.
And Neil Gaiman was going to write the sequel because they were already planning on a series.
Whoa. Okay.
Neil Gaiman was going to base the sequel on one of the Modesty Blaise novels, one called I, Lucifer.
Okay.
One of the ones that has psychic powers. Apparently, O'Donnell quite liked writing stories with psychic powers in them.
Uh-huh.
And I did read one, actually, which was called The Mind of Mrs. Drake,
Okay.
about a psychometrist who could tell you the history of objects by handling them. Anyway,
Okay.
moving on. Continue. Neil apparently is a huge fan of the series and has loved it ever since he was 6 years old. And was so excited to be adapting Modesty Blaise for cinema that he submitted a treatment instantly and began work on writing the script. However, something went wrong, as it often does, and the first film was never made. Miramax's option was running out.
Okay.
Option on the Modesty Blaise characters running out, and O'Donnell had said that he was not going to renew it. So they made the prequel, My Name Is Modesty, a direct-to-video production that was made in a matter of weeks, which dramatically extended Miramax's option on the property.
Yeah.
As I said before, I read that this film had 18 days shooting, essentially. Shot in Bucharest in 2002, written by Scott and Lee Batchler, Scott Spiegel directed, and Alexandra Staden starred.
Imagine shooting in Bucharest and not having it seem exotic. It really feels like it was shot inside.
Well, that casino was probably would have been a stage, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a real casino.
Yeah, no. It's this casino with one roulette wheel. That's like the whole casino.
It's like one of those mahjong places that are at the back of a restaurant.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, except that it goes vertical for some reason. I don't know what's on the other floors. Anyway.
How much money can you bring in with one roulette wheel?
Yeah.
Money was in this vault. Well.
Yeah.
Yep. So a shame that I would have apparently an interesting note of trivia to kind of wind up on. This film's doesn't have a very high rating on IMDb. And in fact, the 40-minute interview with Tarantino and Spiegel called A Conversation with Quentin Tarantino and Scott Spiegel has a much higher rating. But of course, I have no idea what the budget was or how much it made because it went straight to video.
Yeah, how bizarre. I feel my hunch was that 2002 was when they made it and then they tried to sell it as a pilot and then it didn't sell. But it seems like they just made it because they needed to hold on to the rights. Yeah.
Seems to be the consensus online, and
Okay.
no less a reliable figure than Neil Gaiman has lent his has weighed in on it.
Yeah. Okay. Is that it? Should we go to voting now?
That's it for trivia. Yeah, we can go to voting.
Okay. Okay, so the comic, of course, is still great, even with the. I was a bit worried, but like, is this going to be this Hong Kong story? Is it going to be shady? Like, is there going to be some stuff I don't like in it, if you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it wasn't bad actually.
It shows its age a little.
Yeah,
There's some kind of like choppy English
a
for the
little bit, but it's not too bad. Wang does end up becoming Modesty's houseboy, but there's actually kind of like they built up this story where he's in her debt effectively, and he has to right the wrongs of being a drug dealer.
Yeah.
So he's going to be
Yeah.
her servant.
Yeah.
So
And I read a later story where essentially that's basically what he does.
yeah,
He's kind of like Chewbacca.
right.
He feels
Right.
that he has to kind of do this
Yeah.
in order to expiate his sins.
Right.
Yeah, for me, it's EA as well. I read all of these that you sent me. In volume 3, there's this rad one called The Hellmakers, where
Okay.
someone kidnaps, for once, someone that Modesty doesn't know. In this case, an alleged Soviet defector who turns out not to be a defector kidnaps Willie Garvin, injects him with LSD for a week.
Whoa.
Yeah, to kind of break his mind.
Wow.
And so, and they threaten Modesty. So someone comes to Modesty's flat and tells her, Willie Garvin, we haven't even killed him. Instead, we've done so much worse. We're injecting him with LSD daily, and he's going to go nuts unless unless you agree to help us with whatever. In this case, I think they wanted to pass shady information to the American government. And Modesty says to this woman who's confronted her with this, how do you know that I won't just kill you? And she says, I've calculated you won't. And then Modesty just kills her.
Oh, that's awesome. I got to read that one.
Oh, it's mad. And then Willie's being held in this kind of like sanitarium that's on top of a mountain, an unclimbable mountain. And Modesty goes into a valley and meets this crazy old prospector. And the crazy old prospector has trained eagles, and they get the eagles to fly ropes up to the top. It's just so nuts.
Yes. Well, we talked about the, last week too, even when the nut stuff happens, Holdaway tends to draw it in such a realistic way that you buy it.
Oh yeah, these are still the old Holdaway drawn comic. I just love it. I love everything about them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yay. All right.
Yeah.
Before we do our votes for the film, do you want to talk about why you had suspended judgment on the movie up to this point?
I couldn't tell if it was like good if it was a TV episode, would I say, oh, this is a good show, I'm gonna watch this show? Maybe I would. Maybe I would have watched this show if it was a series in the 90s.
That's it.
But if I went to the cinema to see this, I'd be like, what? No, this is crud. This is cheap ass crud.
That's very fair. I'm inclined to agree. It's that I felt exactly the same way. How do you vote? You have to know where to place it before I know how I'm going to vote. Is this a film? Well, it went straight to DVD. It's sort of like it's an exceptionally good episode of television.
Yeah, like I said, I think the writing's fine. I think the actors are pretty good.
Either that Simpsons episode where Homer is either a below average human or a brilliant beast.
Mm-hmm.
So this is
Yes.
This is either a below average movie or a brilliant pilot or television show.
Yeah.
So look, I think I'm gonna vote yay. I did enjoy it.
Okay.
It had its problems. It certainly
Yeah.
looked cheap. It could absolutely have done. I think Spiegel, maybe he had a producer or somebody standing over his shoulder telling him to wind it up after he'd done one shoot.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think that it's decent, right? It's like not bad. It's decent.
Yep. I think it could definitely have benefited from more takes. I think Jamie Lannister and Modesty Blaise, I think the actors are both doing a great job.
Yeah.
With the material. I think it's hamstrung somewhat by the flashbacks. The flashbacks, I think, kind of interrupt what they're going for, the intense kind of battle of wills between the two similar yet different characters of Modesty and Jamie Lannister.
Yeah.
We needed more time for their relationship to kind of breathe, I guess, to establish that they were sort of the same or similar people who had chosen different paths. Like Jamie had chosen to murder and get revenge, and Modesty had sort of bettered herself and was in control of her destiny. But instead, we keep getting interrupted by kind of crummy flashbacks with lame Tai Chi on the beach.
Yeah.
But saying all that, I was invested and I enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to vote yay.
Okay, then I will vote yay as well. But I will say it's a yay, but I wouldn't recommend anybody seek this out. I would never tell anybody, hey, you got to go find this Modesty, My Name Is Modesty DVD from 2004 or download it or whatever.
Oh, yeah, sure. No, I wouldn't either.
But I would say, I saw that and it was good.
Although I would like to get it just so that I can watch this apparently highly rated interview.
Yes, that's true. All right. So as adaptation, I initially was not sure, but I'm now sure. So I think it's missing some elements. It's missing Willie, which to me is a huge failing. I mean, that's one of the reasons you'll read the strip is that relationship.
Sure.
And it's hamstrung by the budget, as we've mentioned. It's just not. It's missing a lot of the Modesty vibe completely. I think she's really good as Modesty. I think it could have turned into Modesty Blaise. You know, if this is a modern television series, maybe she'd hook up with Willie in season 2 or something. I don't know, but
oh yeah, a modern TV show would be all about not introducing a key character until the second season.
Yeah, and then we'll get canceled after the second season, and then we'll get pulled from the streamer for tax purposes. But
we can only judge it on its merits, can't we?
It's weird because it's got so many elements that are from the strip, but the overall feel of it, they've got the fine details down, like her origin story and the name of Lush, at least, you know, Tangier, all that kind of stuff is in there. It's missing the strangely more important stuff, I think.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, because all of the story, with the exception of in the beginning, all the story, Modesty Blaise is the post-criminal character.
Yeah.
You know, time and again, all of her adventures are about a dissolute kind of person with no stake in anything who just kind of has adventures out of boredom.
Yeah. Exactly, yes.
Yeah, and that's obviously not present here, because instead we're seeing Modesty at the start of her career.
Yeah.
Look,
here's a question. Why is it so hard to get a Modesty Blaise adventure on screen?
I don't know. Well,
how hard can it be?
I think part of the problem is O'Donnell, because he was burned in 66, right?
Yeah. But I mean, let's say O'Donnell gave you his blessing, make a Modesty Blaise movie. Why is it so hard to put these elements in there?
It just seems like bad luck. We haven't watched, perhaps we will one day watch the pilot for the 1980 TV series that apparently O'Donnell was not very happy with it.
Set in the US and the character's American.
Oh yeah, well, no wonder. How could it be like making James Bond American? It just seems like rotten luck.
Yeah.
And perhaps maybe this comic's not big in the States too, and the States is where all the money is.
Right, that's true too, yes, definitely.
Yeah, but look, think I'm going to vote yay for adaptation.
Okay.
For two reasons. Okay, first of all, as you pointed out, it gets some key details correct. You know, this is, if you cut out in the beginning, which is the Modesty Blaise comic, and looked at this as an adaptation of In the Beginning, it's
pretty good.
Completely by the numbers,
yeah. Pretty good.
And second of all, I mean, it's hard to divorce it from the sleazy context in which it was made, right? So why does this exist, and why is it a prequel? It exists, and it's a prequel because Harvey Weinstein, the disgusting ogre, wanted to extend his grubby clasp on the rights for another couple of years. That's why it's a prequel. But you could, and that's why it's, you know, we get a prequel. It's a prequel to nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's just a wall. I mean, it only exists. But if you had to make a Modesty, if you were going to make a Modesty Blaise prequel, this is what it would look like. There's nothing untrue to the character here. I mean, it's an interesting...
That's true. That is true. She's really good in it, and she's been written well. Yeah.
So
that's true.
It's not the most ecstatic yay, but I'm inclined to say yay.
Okay. So please like, rate, review, subscribe on whatever your platform is. Please leave a comment. Please email us at the email address in the show notes. Please join our Patreon at patreon.com/comicbookmovieoblivion, all one word. I think.
Please fund my desire to watch an interview. I mean, I scoured YouTube.
Yeah, we need that DVD, right? So, like, that's the kind of stuff we need the money for. And I think archive.org is still down, and that was a source for a lot of comics and stuff. And was there any of the others that I forgot to mention? I think that's it. Okay, next week we're going to talk about, for the first time ever, the minute it comes out, we're going to cover Robert Zemeckis' adaptation of Richard Maguire's Here.
It's very exciting.
So
This is what's going to make our name come up. People are going to be Googling here, and our podcast is going to
yeah,
come up on Google.
yeah. So it's coming out in cinemas, or actually, I think it's already out in the States, maybe, and it's coming out in Australia. So maybe we're not right on top of it. Maybe we are. I don't remember. Anyway, what I will say about it is there were two versions of Here. So Richard Maguire did a like 8-page version, which appeared in Raw magazine, volume 2. And you can see that one. There's places online. You can just Google it and find it probably. And then he did a 320-page graphic novel version, like around 2015 it came out, maybe, or something like that.
Yep.
So we'll read both of those. I actually prefer the short version. And then we'll talk about this crazy ass movie. This comic is so experimental and avant-garde, and to make a movie of it is insane. Just insane.
Whet your appetites. This is the unadaptable comic.
Yes.
So how Zemeckis has adapted it to a movie, I'm very keen to see.
We're very keen to find out. Yep. All right. So we'll see you next week.